This Matchday 4 Picks edition of the Premier League Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by our Patreon. Score exclusive perks, content and contests, including our NFL Win Totals contest with a $1,000 prize. Join today at sportsgamblingpodcast.com/Patreon. We're also brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Fantasy is offering you a chance to win $15 million in prizes with Best Ball Mania 4. Use the promo code SGPN at Underdog Fantasy for a 100% deposit bonus up to $100. And we're brought to you by DraftKings Sportsbook. Download the app now. Use the code SGP. New customers can score $200 in bonus bets instantly when they bet just $5 on any college football game. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook with the code SGP. Welcome, everybody, to the Premier League Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. My name is Malcolm Bamford, coming to you from Newcastle upon Tyne, the northeast of England. Today is, let's have a look. I've got no idea. What's the date, Baz? 29th, 30th, 31st, 30th, Wednesday. Wednesday, I really should write this down. Wednesday, the 30th of August. And we've got a full slate of action for the weekend, starting on Friday night. The Friday night games are still going. I think that stops soon, but yeah, we've got plenty of Friday night stuff. And all the way through to Sunday again. Joining me, you've just heard his dulcet tones, is Mr. Barry Penaluna. Hello, Baz. What's happening?
Evening, Mal. Yeah, I'm currently sat here, like a few people, I think, who are in the Discord or in the chat here, watching the Everton game or watching the stats for the Everton game, because we put out our EFL Cup picks this week, and I was bold enough to take Everton in a treble. The first two legs came in last night, and I'm waiting for Everton tonight. And there was a few people in the Discord, and I think Pat might have been on it, on the treble. And at the moment, 38 minutes in, Everton
on the Asian line, wasn't
it? Well, my pick for the game was minus 1.5. But then when I put the treble out at the end, I just said Everton on the money line. So some people might have backed them on the money line, but I've got them in a handicap. 38 minutes in, Malcolm. Everton haven't had a single shot on or off target against Doncaster, who are 90 seconds.
I've been watching it, Baz, and Doncaster could have been 2-0 up in 90 seconds.
They've outdone them 4 shots to 0 so far, so Everton are getting outplayed.
That's all right, though. It's the sort of game that will wear them down. Everton will score like 68, 84 and win 2-0. That was kind of the handicap. And we kind of got the team right. Although I don't know if Dyche's got many options to make a load of changes.
Strong enough lineup there from the minute. He's got Danjuma, that Chamiti's playing, Doucouré, Onana.
There was a shock on the cards until a couple of minutes ago as well. Chelsea were 1-0 down at home to Wimbledon. But Chelsea have just equalised going into half-time. We touch on these picks, Baz, because we mentioned them. I did mention the other day mine would be an absolute waste of time, and so it has proven. Norwich, I took team total, and they won the game, and they were bigger than... I took them a plus 137 to score over 1.5 goals, and they won the game at plus 155. So I feel like I mugged myself off a bit then. And then Reading 11-2, and then they were plus 250 to qualify. I actually took it to penalties, so kind of on a toss of a coin, a penalty shootout. Nearly got one there. But apart from that, I didn't hold out much hope, Baz, because we know I'm terrible at this sort of shit. But you've kept the flag flying, haven't you?
Yeah, obviously the underdog pick didn't go any good, but I had 2 for 2. But I really rode my luck with it as well, because I had Bournemouth to win. They were 1-1, 90th minute, and they scored on the 91st. And I had over 2.5 goals in the Bolton v Middlesbrough game, and that was 1-1 in the 90th minute. And there was 2 goals in injury time to take that over 2.5. So it did require injury time goals, but I was 2 for 2 on me 3 picks that I put out. And as I say, the final one was Everton handicap tonight. So far, not so good, but still plenty of time.
Yeah, I know Pat's in the chat already. Patted back to Sutton United. Which he gave me credit for. Really, I basically gave out a list of underdogs. That was nothing to do that was nothing to do with me tipping them. It was just a factual list of who might win at a big price. And one of them was always going to win. Sutton did. Say Salford knocked Leeds United out on penalties, which was a big one. Brentford survived a penalty shootout against Newport County. Yeah, there's been stuff going on. There's some people in the chat. Josh was first in. Josh wins tonight. Everton are killing him as well. Slickworks here. Pat, good evening. Serial. Friday night, Baz. We've got a Friday night game, Baz. You're the expert. And Francis is here as well, saying hello. So I've got 2 items of lifestyle, Baz. I had items of lifestyle we never got to the other day, but I'm just going to have to scrap them, Baz. Life's moved on. In fact, I've got 1 item of lifestyle, and the one appertains to the tit list. So we got a Twitter message of Curtis Graham the other day, Baz. We need to address this. Who said, and rightly so, this was a suggestion or a recommendation for the tit list. And it was Jason Tyndall. So Curtis Graham on Twitter recommended Jason Tyndall. Jason Tyndall, if you're not 100% sure, is the assistant manager at Newcastle. So he's that big, good-looking bloke who hangs around behind Eddie Howe. Who the Premier League have changed the rules this year to keep him away from Eddie Howe. Who then, Klopp was acting like a tit at the weekend. And then Jason Tyndall sort of shushed him, gave him the old sit down when we were 1-0 up. And then obviously that comes back to bite you. So Curtis was saying that Tyndall should be on the tit list, because if you shush someone and then lose to them with 10 men, you do look a bit of a tit.
He wasn't shushing him to say we're 1-0 up. It was shushing him because he was moaning about the Van Dijk red card, I think.
Yeah.
It was all the fallout from the Van Dijk and all that. But,
well,
we didn't put Tyndall on the list, and we explained our reasoning.
I've come to the proper reason, Baz, and here's the reason: he's our tit, Jason Tyndall, and it's our list, isn't it? So it's like slagging off your own mum. Like, you're allowed to slag you. I'm allowed to slag my mum off, which that's fine. I call her an old cow the whole time. However, no one else. If anyone else called you, you'd get upset, wouldn't you? Like, he's our tit. That's fine. So he's never going to get on the list because
I don't get why people are so wound up about Jason Tyndall. Like,
it's just real people aren't, can they? It's internet people, I think. But
I think he plays on it now, doesn't he? He makes more of it but it does wind everybody up elsewhere in the league. Nobody in their right mind should know who Jason Tyndall is, but it annoys a lot of people. But what I did like was the idea that people are embracing the tit list and making recommendations for the tit list. That was really good. So yeah, keep your nominations coming for the tit list, and all entries will be considered.
This would have been, I forgot actually, Baz, this would have been a good trivia last week. Back-to-back Saturdays, Baz. The IT department and Bob have spotted football and celebrities in Sports Direct on back-to-back Saturdays, which is quite a long shot in the first place. But week one...
Time out.
Oh no. Doncaster scored. 1,
Everton 0.
Oh my goodness.
You couldn't make this shit up.
This is my fault. I should have left everybody alone to get on with it.
I'm just looking at my handicap for Everton for this weekend. I might need to revisit it.
And that's exactly just what I was thinking. Mine is still live, actually. Jesus,
yeah,
I'm
okay.
So yeah, back-to-back Saturdays. But last week was Jason Tyndall in Sports Direct. And he was buying football boots for his kid. The same as that's what Bob was doing. And the week before was John Joe Shelby, of all people. Obviously not required by Nottingham Forest. So he was just up here in Sports Direct as well. Serial says you've just spoiled that again, Baz. You love spoiling that for him. That's terrible.
He's not watching that live. Like, there's no way he's sat watching Everton v Doncaster. Spoilers don't count unless you're watching it live on TV. You may correct me, but surely he's got better things to do than watch Everton v Doncaster.
Well, I was watching it. Right, so lifestyle, Baz. I needed to get in touch with you last night to do me a favour, because the favour I needed for you to do was draft the Guillotine League, which the boys were drafting, the D-Gens were drafting it 2:30 in the morning. And I did intend to draft it, but something happened to me, Baz. I was unable to draft because I couldn't see, I couldn't walk, and I was very much trying just not to die last night. What happened was, it's the school holidays. It's the last week. Bob starts big school next week. So, trying to do a nice little treat. So we went to Flamingo Land, Baz. You know what Flamingo Land is. A lot of the British people will. It's a big theme park. It's a very northern theme park, but it's quite good. I like it. It's good. It's like half of it's a zoo, and there's all the good animals. Had a lovely time. We saw. I mean, if you're 2 foot away from a tiger, you can't whack that. Like, you've got to be impressed. Tiger, cheetah. We do the sea lion show. All of those cheesy stuff. Fine. The other half's a proper theme park, roller coasters, and all this. Well, I'm not great at them. No one's great at them, but Betty really likes them. But you can't make her go and by herself, can't you? So first in the morning, early doors, she wanted to go on one. There wasn't much of a queue, so the IT department went on with her. Survived, came off, no problem. And then the last thing we did before we went home, she said, I want to go on this massive roller coaster. So I said, right, okay, I'll go on it. Stood there in trepidation, got in the thing, absolutely shitting me pants, Baz. Went on it. It wasn't too bad. I came off, I was a bit wobbly, but I think that's what you're meant to be. I think everyone's a bit wobbly. But as we then proceeded to go home, Baz, I just got worse and worse and worse. So I got bundled into the car. And all I could do was close my eyes and sit as still as possible. So for 2 hours home, I didn't move. I then got out the car, crawled up the stairs into bed where I just lay star-shaped. It was like my whole head in bed was in a dishwasher. It was a nightmare. And I couldn't bear to look at my phone or anything. So I messaged you and said, can you do this for us? And that was it. And today I'm still just around my eyes. Like, my eyes feel like they're rolling in my head, all from that.
That's funny.
That's funny. That is one of the two options. I might be an absolute fanny. But it's definitely a thing when you get old. Is it your cerebral fluid that rolls around your head? It either gets thicker or thinner when you get old, which means it takes a long time. Whichever one would make it longer to settle down. So I think like Betty says water, like it would just go because she's young. Because I'm ancient, mine's like treacle. So it takes like 2 days for it to get back to normal. So I think that's why excuse pass. But there was no reason for me to be absolutely out of action for 24 hours because I went on a roller coaster. So what do you think of that?
Science lesson there as well, Malcolm. Yes. So
mate,
this
is edutainment, isn't it?
I had to get up at 2:30 in the morning to draft that.
Yeah, you did.
So I made a mistake, Malcolm. I had a bottle of wine before I went to bed. So I had a bottle of wine, went to bed at midnight, set an alarm for 2:15, and I got up with a banging hangover. So at 2:30,
of course you did.
Dragged myself downstairs with a pint of water and sat for 2 hours drafting that league.
2 hours did that take?
Torture. It was about 4:20 by the time it finished.
Oh, Barry.
Skulked off back to bed.
I absolutely 100% owe you one. It's not very many times I'll say that, Baz, but I owe you one for that. You're projected to finish third in week 1. So I think you did all right as well. I had a look today and I'm so far out, which was about half the names I didn't recognise. But yeah, because we got guillotined week 1 last season. So we certainly don't want to get guillotined week 1. It's $100 down the pan if you get guillotined week 1. So that was that. Do you have any lifestyle stuff before we crack on and make some picks?
No, nothing new. Let's crack on with it.
Right, okay. Picks upcoming. DraftKings, I'll tell you about. If you like a bit of college football, get ready for week 1 on DraftKings Sportsbook. Hooking you up with a can't miss offer. Bet $5 on college football and score $200 in bonus bets, which is frankly quite a ridiculous offer. Anything can happen in college football. You can go from unranked to dynasty mode. Change come fast. The only thing that's a lock is the great offers from DraftKings Sportsbook. Life's more fun when you're on the action. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use the code SGP. New customers can score $200 in bonus bets instantly when they bet just $5 on college football. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook with the code SGP. If you've got a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. State specific responsible gambling resources. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. Eligibility and deposit restrictions apply. Terms at sportsbook.draftkings.com/football terms. Okay. We will go to a Friday night 8 o'clock kickoff, which is 3 p.m. Eastern time, between Luton Town and West Ham United. Luton are 15-4 plus 375. The draw's 11-4 plus 275. And West Ham are 3-4 favourites, minus 133. I'm going to start with West Ham because I'm not interested in them at this price. At 3-4, minus 133. They're far, far, far too short. And obviously that's priced up on the back of that win at Brighton last week. So they've had an average draw at Bournemouth, a 1-1, which was predictable. It was the 1-1 of the week. It kind of fitted into what we thought. They then got a lucky win against Chelsea, where Chelsea missed a penalty, which probably would have put the game to bed. And then they do get a good win against Brighton. That kind of fits into their game script, which was sit and defend, hit a team on the break. But everything we know about West Ham so far doesn't really change much. I didn't think they were very good against Bournemouth or Chelsea. And we kind of know what they're about. They'll pick up the odd home win. Antonio has started really well, but he's still not going to finish the season on 20 goals. Like, it's still the same Mikhail Antonio. He might not score for another 2 months now. Luton, what? He will score for it.
Yeah.
Is it your pick, is he?
No, he'll score in the next. Well, I might have something in this game.
Interesting.
He definitely will score within the next couple of months.
Well, I'm not sure. If they're going to buy some new players, you might not even get a game. So this really is the start of Luton's season. They've had 2 tricky away games at Brighton and Chelsea, where they got nothing. But the ground is now ready. So they get their first big home game under the lights on Friday. They beat Gillingham at home in the Cup last night, 3-2. That's a bit of an outlier, the scoreline for Luton. You kind of had to go back and look at Luton's form last year in the Championship to work out how they did at home, what their MO was. And really, they draw as many games as they win. Everywhere, they drew 17 and won 21. And at home, they won 10 and drew 9. So draws, they deal in a lot. They scored 1.35 a game, conceded 0.91 at home. So I was trying to pick a side here, but I couldn't, Baz. I couldn't quite get Luton to win. I wasn't brave enough. I don't want West Ham. And I was struggling to see what the game script would be, because if West Ham have to go and attack, I don't think they're capable. They're capable of doing what they did last week, which was defending, getting lucky, and picking a team off on the break. Luton will go mad for the first 15 minutes behind the home crowd and all the excitement. But after that, it's going to settle into a bit of a cagey affair, I think. I think 1 goal next, Baz, but the under 2.5 goals is a very fair price. It's 9-10, minus 111. We're looking at Serial suggested a possible 1-1. That is absolutely one of the outcomes. It's a 1-1 of the week, but it's a live outcome. A 1-0 somewhere or a 1-1. But the under 2.5 is a fair price, Baz.
Yeah, I mean, I've gone a little bit different. I mean, I think it's a bit harsh to say you can't see how West Ham can attack. They've scored 7 goals in 3 games, which tells you they're attacking just fine at the moment. I mean, it's obviously not a great start for Luton. 2 defeats, conceded 7 goals. But it has been a tough start with them. 2 away games, Chelsea and Brighton. And as you say, back at home this week. And they are 10 games unbeaten at home, and they've won 8 of their last 9, albeit against lower league opposition in the Championship last year. I'm a bit torn, because I do think Luton are going to have to get something from games like this one at home. But I also think people are getting a little bit carried away with all of the romance around Kenilworth Road and Luton at home and all of this lot. I mean, I saw a post on Twitter yesterday saying something like West Ham could get caught out by an atmosphere that's never been seen in the Premier League before.
Oh, fuck off.
What is that all about? Like, what haven't we seen before that we're going to see tomorrow? Like,
if you want to count, Baz, we said this about Burnley week 1. They were 1-0 down after 3 minutes and got beat. We said it about Sheffield United at home week 1, lost 1-0. So it is definitely a thing. The home atmosphere can be a thing, but equally, it's the Premier League. Like, the West Ham players are going to walk out there and completely and utterly shit their pants.
Exactly. But I think people are going a little bit too far in terms of how much of an edge Luton are going to get out of that situation. That said, I think at the prices, I think Luton at 4-1 is a little bit bigger than I expected. But like you, I can't get myself far enough in their favour to think I would take it. But I don't want West Ham at their price either. I mean, West Ham have got off to a great start. They had the draw against Bournemouth and followed up with good wins against Chelsea and Brighton. So, ironically, the 2 teams who have beat Luton are the 2 teams who West Ham have gone and beat. But I'm just a bit wary at this point of getting carried away with teams who are in good form over 3 games, because that's what we're looking at the minute. We've literally had 3 games, and it's not enough form to go off. So I don't want to back West Ham at 3-4. So I looked at the goals. I think, despite the good start, West Ham, they have conceded in every game, and that pushed me towards both teams to score. I think West Ham will score, but I think Luton will get on the score sheet at some point. Let's West Ham, for me, I think we'll probably nick it 2-1 or something. So I don't really like your pick, but we can both land here. So the pick for me is both teams to score, and it's at 4-5 minus 125. So Luton v West Ham, both teams to score is the pick. But I thought I'd chuck a score out there because I've done all right on the Friday nights with a little bonus scorer play. So it's not my main one for the week, but I think Antonio, having scored back-to-back games, he'll be full of confidence. He's 5-2 to score a goal anytime tomorrow, and 13-2 for first goal scorer. So I'm going to have a little play on that. So Miguel Antonio, 5-2 for an anytime goal, and 13-2 for first scorer tomorrow night against Luton.
He's shite, but 12:30 Eastern. I nearly said first pitch then. I haven't done that before on the Premier League show. 12:30 kickoff on Saturday, 7:30 a.m. Sheffield United against Everton. I can't even see Everton without laughing. Well, by the way, Baz, you like me jumper?
I noticed it was a bit bright, Malcolm, but at least it's not corduroy.
It's like pale yellow. It's got a pineapple on it. Look.
Yeah, lovely.
It's all right there. I never really, it's always at the back of the rotation, right at the back of the wardrobe, but the IT department must be slacking on the washing because I saw it just now. So I just thought I'll stick it on. I've got a bit of chocolate on it down there before. Betty made s'mores, but I thought it'd be all right to keep on, Yeah, I shouldn't be wearing this colour at my age, but I am. Sheffield United are 21-10 plus 210. The draw is 11-5 plus 220. Everton is 7-5 plus 140. Baz, Keenel, pick this apart, man. It's horrible.
I know. I mean, you messaged me earlier on and said this was a hard slate of games, and it is definitely the hardest we've had yet, I think. I mean, before I go into that game, I mean, we look at the first few weeks we've had, and there's barely been any major surprises, has there, in anything? No big shocks, no big underdogs. I mean, we've picked a couple of underdogs, but they've not been massive, like the Wolves to beat Everton. It's not a massive shock that Wolves went and beat Everton. Yeah. The biggest I think we've had is probably Arsenal drawing at home to Fulham. But I do feel like this week, I said to you, I think it could be a weekend where that changes. I feel like you can make a case for a few underdogs this week, just because it is quite a hard slate. And I think people are overestimating some of these teams who've got off to a good start, and possibly underestimating a few teams who haven't got off to a good start. It's just 3 games at this stage. Like, can't get carried away with some of this stuff. But Sheffield United, Everton. I mean, I've wrote, what do you do with Everton? And I mean, I wrote that before they went 1-0 down to Doncaster without having a shot on goal in the first half. It's been profitable for us, fading Everton so far. They're still goalless. They've conceded 6. 4 of them come against Villa away from home, to be fair. But at some point, Everton will pick up something, or at least score a goal. So is it this week? That's the question. I mean, the problem for Everton as well is their away form last year is shocking. They had the 5-1 win against Brighton, which we talked about a few times, mentioned what a freak result that was, and a result that ultimately kept them in the Premier League. And it really was a freak result. That's their only away win in the last 10 months, Malcolm, in competitive football. That Brighton game is the only away game they've won. You have to go back to last October for another away win from them in competitive games, which is a massive concern for anyone looking to back Everton here. But then how do you make a case for Sheffield United here? 3 games, 3 defeats. I mean, they've not been blown away by anyone, which is the one positive. Each of the defeats has come by a single goal. And they'll probably take some confidence out of the 2-1 v Man City, because you've only been beaten by 1 goal at Man City. You're not doing too bad. There isn't an outcome in this game that would surprise me. Sheffield United could win it. I'd say, yeah, fair enough. Everton might get a result this week, scrape a 1-0. Fair enough. So I just can't make a case for any of them on the money line. If pushed, if I had a gun to my head, had to pick one, I think I'd take Sheffield United as the home underdog at just over 2-1. But it's not a pick for me. I've dipped into the cards market here because I really struggled with this game. So I've gone into team cards, to be precise. Sheffield United have picked up 10 yellow cards in 3 games so far. They had 4 in the first game and 2 threes. Everton's opponents in 3 games so far have also combined for 10 yellow cards. So follow that trend. Sheffield United, over 2.5 cards in the game, is at 10 to 11, minus 110. So that's a pick for me. Sheffield United to get 3 or more cards in this game.
Okay. I dipped into the cards market once last week and couldn't have been further away. So I gave that a wide berth. Because there were so many hard games, I was trying to cop out. I can't pick a win. I'm not good enough. I'll go and find some cards or corners or shit like that. Just guess it one. But I couldn't. So I tried to keep myself as legit as possible. It is hard to take a side, Baz, because, like you say, if you went out on Saturday afternoon and then checked the scores and saw whatever, you'd think, yeah, okay. So neither side have done enough for me to want to pick them. I don't want to pick Sheffield United to win because I haven't seen enough from them. And you can't pick Everton to win because you haven't seen enough from them. I made that same comparison last week with Wolves and had seen enough from Wolves to want to make a pick, but I haven't with Everton or Sheffield United. It's almost a 6-pointer this start this early in the season. It's wild. Both teams will view this as a game to try and get off the mark. Both low-scoring teams, but what I did here, Baz, before I saw the odds, I knew the under 2.5 would be skinny. I knew it would be really skinny. And I said to myself in my little mind here, Baz, I said, if the over 2.5 is 13 to 10 or bigger, I'll take it. And I clicked on, and it was exactly on that line. I'm a very shrewd man, it turns out. But the over 2.5 is 13 to 10 plus 130. Everton can't defend, for one thing. They appear to have no intention of defending. Jordan Pickford's always in his goal, which is someone should tell him, really. Somebody wins this game 2-1, Baz. Set pieces, like 2 corners from a header in a manky old scramble. You can clip that on Saturday tea time because that's what's going to happen. Someone wins 2-1. It's over 2.5 goals plus 130, 13 to 10. Francis is speculating that it's 1-1 of the week he's missed. And Mark B. Hello, Mark. That's a new name to me. Don't know if you know Mark.
Yeah, he's put up Cameron Archer as an anytime scorer. It's a price of 100 to 30 plus 330 for Cameron Archer. He's just signed for Sheffield United. Important.
I don't know too much about him, Baz. Like, do you have a
we haven't
on
seen
him at all?
Much of him, have we? But I mean, 100 to 30 for someone who's going to be playing up top for them in a game where, as you say, Jordan Pickford's in goal at the other end. Why not?
Why not, Baz? Right, we'll crack on after I've told you about Underdog Fantasy. August is almost over. Time, if you can see straight, to draft your fantasy football team on Underdog Fantasy. Get championship ready for your home league by trying out the best ball drafts. It's one live snake draft, no waivers, no trades. Set and forget it. Underdog will do the rest. The Best Ball Mania tournament has $15 million prize pool with the frankly absurd $3 million to the winner. Visit underdogfantasy.com or find them in the App Store. Sign up with the promo code SGPN to get your first deposit doubled up to $100. That's Underdog Fantasy, promo code SGPN. If you're concerned with your play, call 1-800-GAMBLER. And don't forget about the SGP Patreon. You've got things like the NFL Win Totals contest. That's got a $1,000 first place prize. The weekly Patreon Pick'em is all week 1 college football. That's live as well. And it's just a great way of supporting the network, helping everybody churn out all the content that we all enjoy so much. So that's at sportsgamblingpodcast.com/Patreon, sportsgamblingpodcast.com/Patreon. 1, 2, 3, 4 3:00 kickoffs on Saturday afternoon, starting with Brentford against Bournemouth, where Brentford are 13 to 18, minus 138. The draw is 14 to 5, plus 280. And Bournemouth are 15 to 4, plus 375. Brentford have played 2 home games, drawn them both. The 2-2 with Tottenham and a 1-1 with Palace last week. They were pretty average for Palace last week as well. An XG of under 0.96. Bournemouth I thought they were disappointing against Spurs last week. I thought they'd have a bit more of a go. And the Bournemouth do look like they're settling into that pattern of sort of being a bottom third team. sort of a little bit fancy and they're going to flash for the odd 20 minutes, but they look very beatable. Tottenham kind of just picked them up. Instinct, I think everybody's instinct just says goals here. However, then I've got 3 games that I've kind of gone against this, just on the odds. And that first one was Sheffield United Everton, where I've just gone the plus money over. Bournemouth have gone under 2.5 twice. They had the 1-1 with West Ham and then the 2-0 at home last week. And I just think Brentford might be levelling out. Another team that you've just said people are kind of overreacting to, and we mentioned them, Weimer and Wisser and all that sort of malarkey. And they didn't really show up last week. The under 2.5 is plus money, and I'm happy to take it, Baz. Brentford might win it 1-0, 2-0, something like that. But I see this being, again, a relatively low-scoring game. Bournemouth just say dropping out, and Brentford aren't really blowing my skirt. I think people went a little bit over the top. They're very good at home. They don't get beat at home. If they can't win, they make sure they don't get beat. And yeah, under 2.5 goals, Baz, 11-10 plus 110.
Yeah, so I agree. I think Brentford are being sort of overestimated a little bit based on what we've seen so far. They are unbeaten. We've got unbeaten Brentford against winless Bournemouth. Brentford 5 points, win and 2 draws. But both of those draws coming at home, so they haven't won either of the home games so far. Those home games against Palace and Spurs. And the only win they did have was the away win to Fulham. And that game finished 3-0, but a lot of that turned on a red card early in the second half for Fulham, and Brentford kicked on from there. And although Bournemouth are winless, they have faced 3 unbeaten sides so far in Liverpool, Spurs and West Ham. So I think they've had a tough run of fixtures, and this is one where I think I can make an argument for the underdog here, because you're getting close to 4-1 for Bournemouth, and I just think it could be the right fixture for us to see a bit more of an uptick in them. I think a few of these underdogs are just attractive prices, and it's ones where I start to think I want to oppose the favourites. I just feel I want a piece of Bournemouth here. I'm not blown away by Brentford. As I say, Bournemouth haven't done anything either to blow us away at this point. But at the prices, I want a piece of Bournemouth. Bournemouth are at 4-1. You can get them draw no bet.
You're going to take 2 bets here, Baz?
No, it's just 1 bet.
Okay.
You can get the draw no bet at 5-2, or the double chance is 21-20. So I was between the 3 of them. So I'm going bang in the middle. Bournemouth draw no bet at 5-2 plus 250. That is not 2 bets, Malcolm. The double chance is 2 bets.
It's 1 bet.
But that is 1 bet. So yeah, that's the pick for me. Bournemouth v Brentford. Bournemouth to win, but in draw no bet market. Because as you say, Brentford do have a lot of draws at home. But I'm still getting a good plus money price there, 5-2. I think is a good price to have a crack at Bournemouth here with that little bit of insurance if we get the draw. So yeah, Bournemouth, draw no bet, 5-2 plus 250.
I would say that's half a bet, Baz. 2 bets is half a bet. Is it a bet where you get your money back?
Just a bet.
Really
you just
a bet.
put 1 stake in and press your button.
Yeah, but you might get it back.
Oh, you might do, yeah.
That's not gambling, is it? Win or you lose. I'm not having it. Burnley against Tottenham. Burnley are 14-5 plus 280. The draw is 3-1. Tottenham are 11-13 minus 117. I'll start with the away team here again. Spurs played.
Why are you starting?
Is it your turn?
Well, of course it is. I've just done the last one.
I can't remember that. Go on then.
Yeah, I mean, before I kick off with this one, just a reminder, because we've got quite a few people in the chat. If you're in here now or you're in here later watching on YouTube, give us a thumbs up. And if you haven't already subscribed to YouTube, please do so. And we've had a big uptick in the Spotify reviews lately. After a plea a couple of weeks ago, we've had about 15 new reviews on Spotify.
Nice.
So if you are listening on Spotify, Apple, don't forget to give us a review, because we know we've got loads of new listeners, loads of new downloads. We're getting loads more people watching the YouTubes after we've streamed now. So yeah, give us a thumbs up, because it does make a difference. Burnley Spurs. Burnley coming into their 3rd consecutive home game, having had their only away fixture postponed. They've lost both, conceding 3 in each game. City and Villa. And they've now got another challenge here with Spurs coming in unbeaten, and Spurs who have scored 2 in each of their 3 games so far. I think Spurs are one of these teams where I think people are just getting a little bit carried away a little bit too early about them. We're 3 games in. They've all got off to a good start. But then I looked last night. They get knocked out on penalties against Fulham. And I'd listened a bit to Talk Sport Radio, and I'd looked at stuff on Twitter, and there was a load of Spurs fans going absolutely mad about that defeat. And it was like it was some sort of big giant killing. They got knocked out of the cup off Fulham, who are, finished 2 places below them last season. And it just got me thinking that suddenly the expectation at Spurs has gone from right down here in the space of 3 games to being right all the way up here. And I'm not sure I'd want to see more of Spurs, over a few more weeks before I'm hugely convinced that, they're back to where they need to be. I get why Spurs fans are full of hope again, because from what they've seen so far in the Premier League, it's been encouraging. But I just want to say a bit more. Burnley have had a horrible start in terms of the schedule. They started with Man City, then a postponed game against Luton, which might have been a favourable one for them. And then they've had Villa and now Spurs. I mean, we were quite high on Burnley pre-season, and I think there'll be better days to come for Burnley, and it could possibly be here. I'm going to take Burnley. If this was what I was thinking, Mark, as I say, it's early in the season, and I don't want to put too much weight on these 3 games. If this was last season's Spurs under Conte, this is exactly the spot where we would take Spurs on, away to a side like Burnley, and Burnley being at plus money. I would have took this all day long last year. So I'm going to take a punt on it this time. I'm fading the short-term form here with Spurs and just going with my gut. I'm taking Burnley to win this on the money line, 14-5 plus 280. I just think somewhere in this slate of games, there's going to be a couple of unexpected results. So have I found one of them here? Possibly. We'll soon find out. But yeah, the pick for me, Burnley v Spurs, is Burnley to beat Spurs at 14-5 and plus 280.
Yes, Barry, I agree. That is also my pick. I've got Burnley at that price. Yeah, Spurs, I mean, the word Spursy exists for a reason. What they did last night was Spursy. I didn't understand it. I mean, he didn't make wholesale changes, but Tottenham have got 2 trophies that could win this year, and just got knocked out of one of them last night. For why? Like, if they finish the season, if they lose on Saturday, and they finish the season on 58 points instead of 61, but they win the cup, it's a massive thing. It's a huge turnaround. But they just they got knocked out. And it's too early. We know it's too early for me to change my perception of what Tottenham are going to be, which is this up and down team. They're going to score some, they're going to concede some. They're going to have some good wins, like they did against Man United, when they could have been behind at half-time. They could be sitting on 3 points. Brentford should have beat them. Man United should have been in front at half-time, which would completely change the outcome. And then they were fairly comfortable against Bournemouth. And Burnley, we were high on, and it's too early for us to change our perception on them. We haven't seen them enough, and the spots we've seen them in haven't been ideal. So, yeah, I think you've got to give Burnley a squeak here. We spoke to, it was Nathan from the Burnley podcast pre-season, and he said they have got a habit of getting these big results against good teams at home. And I'm going to give them another chance, Bass, is what's happening here. If this goes Burnley 0, Tottenham 3, I might have to change my opinion on both sides. Francis pointed out Spurs over 1.5 goals. It kind of will be a regular system play. I think Serial mentioned it earlier on in the week in the Discord channel as well, that we said Tottenham would draw 2-2 every week, and they have scored. They just scored 2 goals in every game. They've scored 2 goals so far. So Francis might be onto something. But I think Burnley might get at them. Carrying on to 3 o'clock, just Chelsea against Nottingham Forest. Chelsea are 2-5 minus 250. Forest, they draw 7-2 plus 350. Forest are 7-1. I'll go first, Pascal. Chelsea look to be clicking. They were good for 50 or 60 minutes against Liverpool. Same against West Ham. They managed to draw and lose those 2. It wasn't quite good enough, but then it was good enough against Luton. That level of performance, it wasn't brilliant, but it was too good for what Luton had to offer. And a couple of their players are starting to look really sharp. Jackson looked good again, got his goal. Raheem Sterling looked reborn. Forest are in for 7 new players again, Baz. 7 today. I don't like. We said part of the pre-season was that you appear to have settled down from last season's silliness, and then actually, hang on, here's another, because they've already signed a few, 4 or 5, and then they're actively bidding on like 7 today. I counted, so I don't quite know. Still don't get that disconnect. They'll be absolutely wounded by that defeat last week. 2-0 up at Manchester United, lost 3-2. Joe Worrell will be suspended for his red card. They do look a bit livelier away from home already. They were terrible away from home last year, but they did okay at Arsenal, lost 2-1. And they did okay at Man United, lost 3-2. And then against Sheffield United, actually, they weren't brilliant. They won the game 2-1 with a late winner. But Sheffield United matched them. Their XG in that Man United game last week was 1.1 for us. So as much as they attacked and went forward, I mean, they were 2-0 up against 4 minutes. It was a real anomaly that they were 2-0 up. I think Chelsea can win this by 2 goals. I think Forest are going to drop off a little bit. They've had a hard start. A lot of adrenaline has got into those games against Arsenal and in Manchester United. And I just think to ask them to go and do that a third time is a lot, because I do think there is kind of a little bit bang average. And Chelsea are improving. This is another good spot for Chelsea, just like the Luton Town was. The Luton Town game was last Friday. Chelsea to win by 2, also over 1.5 on the Asian handicap. 21-20 plus 105.
I thought Chelsea were too short a price here, personally. 1 win, 1 draw, 1 loss. And though they did look sharp against Luton last week, it did take them another 68th minute to get the second goal and put that game to bed. They were well beaten in the end by West Ham, as you say. If Enzo Fernandez scores the penalty, different story. But again, there's a bit of hype around Chelsea after a 3-0 win against Luton. And I think you might need to temper that just a little bit. Even around, not just sort of betting-wise, even around fantasy football, Sterling's had 1 good game and suddenly everybody wants to have him in the fantasy football team. I'm hanging on for that sort of thing at the moment. Like, I just think calm down a little bit. It was a game against Luton. They have got some good fixtures coming up, though. Forest have lost 2, won 1. But they're given a go to counting themselves in every game. They've lost by a single goal against Arsenal and a single goal against Man United. So they've been competitive in a tough set of fixtures. They've scored in every game. They've actually scored 5 in 3 games. And 1 year continues to be on a hot streak, scoring every week. And as I say, I just think Chelsea are another team where the hype's been built up just a little bit too much off the back of that recent result. I was really tempted with Forest here. So I'm going to have 2 bets. You can get Forest at 15-2. And it's just too big for me for a team who have been competitive in every game so far. And let's not forget, if you'd backed Forest last week, Malcolm, you would have cashed them and there'd have been a big price away to Man United. If you back them with Bet365, which is who we use, you go 2 goals up, you get paid out. So, backing Forest last week would have paid nicely. My main pick for the game here, Malcolm, is both teams to score. I think Forest can score. Chelsea might go and win it. But I am going to have a little bonus play on Nottingham Forest because I think the price is big and it's tempting. It's 15-2 plus 750. It's just a little bit too big. So, yeah, the main pick for me, both teams to score. I think Forest will score here. But definitely, I don't mind a punt on Forest to beat Chelsea at that price of 15-2.
Tell you what we are going to have to do, Baz, is hurry up a bit. We're halfway through, taking 45 minutes for pity's sake. The final 3 o'clock game was Manchester City against Fulham. Man City are minus 714, so round about 1-7. The draw was 15-2 plus 750. And Fulham are 16-1. Fill your boots, Baz. What you got?
Man City just continue to be efficiently picking up the results, haven't they, without really looking like they've hit top gear yet. They made hard work of it against Sheffield United. Late equaliser. Could have made things a little bit interesting. It just made City a little bit angry and they just went and did what they needed to do to nick it. 2 of the 3 wins have come away from home against promoted sides. So nothing to get too carried away with there. But they also won their single home game as well against Newcastle 1-0. Their home form is ridiculous. 19 consecutive wins now at home. 23 games unbeaten at home. And in that 19-game winning streak, they've only conceded 8 goals and have kept 13 clean sheets. So it's impossible to oppose them here. Can't make any argument at all for Fulham. But it's short prices on everything, as you would expect. So I've gone into the first half market, just a move I like doing sometimes where I can't find anything else. And it's a plus money price I like, and it's City on the Asian handicap, but the first half Asian handicap, -1. It's at 11 to 10, plus 110. So we need City to be 2 up by half time to cash a winner. And if they're 1 up at half time, that's a push. So you won't like that because there's a chance.
Half a bet again. Another half. You can add that to your half a bet from earlier on, make it a
anything worse, it's a loser. But City have been leading at half time in the last 6 home games and have been leading by 2 or more in 4 of those last 6. So something a little bit different. It's a market you should be able to get with most books, and it's definitely on Bet365 that anyone can use. Hopefully. So yeah, first half Asian handicap, Man City -1. So we're looking for City to be 2 up by half time at 11 to 10, plus 110.
Funnily enough, Baz, Man City have been really boring from a betting point of view. Like you just said, functional, getting on with it. It's sort of like 1 to 7, and there've been nothing special. And I've made the notice, I keep trying to chase shit like City in the first half market, because you've been trying to find, I've done what you've been trying to do, and find that plus money, and it just hasn't worked for me at all. Eventually, I did find one actually, and when I found it, I was delighted with it. Fulham just never looked like scoring. The XG was 0.78 last week. It was 0.57 against Brentford, and it was 1.41 at Everton. So it was a bit livelier at Everton, even though Everton's XG was much better that day. I just can't see Fulham scoring. So it was 0.78 against Arsenal last week. So they did get the 2 goals. They got one in the first minute when Ramsdale was rolling down like a 3-year-old, and then one in the last minute. But they didn't really threaten much apart from that. I just think Man City kept a clean sheet against Burnley. They kept a clean sheet against Newcastle quite effortlessly. And it was a stupid decision from Kyle Walker to backheel the ball in his own box. It was a mistake that got Sheffield United a goal. I think Man City can win to 0. That's 5 to 6, -120.
Yeah, I looked at that one. I mean, there's a few people in the chat putting up City team total over 2.5. It's an obvious thing to look at. I looked at that myself, and I don't mind it for accumulators, parlays, whatever. But just not as a standalone pick for me. It was a little bit short. I think 8 to 11. I like it. I think it'll come in, but I just didn't want to put that short pick out as my main pick here. Wanted to find something a little
Fulham
bit
defended
bigger.
quite well against Arsenal. They stymied them.
Talk anyone out of it, like.
Yeah, like I say, Fulham stymied Arsenal, and that Arsenal would have been a similar price last week to cash that and failed, which is why I didn't want to go there. The tea time kick-off, 5:30, 12:30 Eastern time, is Brighton against Newcastle. Incredibly close on the books. Brighton at plus 155, 14 to 9. Newcastle at plus 150, 6 to 4. The draw is 11 to 4, plus 275. Really, really hard. I mentioned this on Monday night, Baz. There were a fog of despair that I could see this being 5-0, 0-5, or anything along that scale. What I'm confident about is Brighton's unpredictability, but that doesn't help when you're trying to find a pick. Because that sample of 3 games is the sample that Brighton are going to give you. And we were on them. We weren't buying it, Baz. You mentioned a couple of teams already tonight that you're not buying the hype one. And we did that with Brighton last week. Newcastle, it's hard because you're trying to look beyond the result, and it's still difficult now sitting on, what day is it, Wednesday night? I still keep remembering what's happened and like, fucking hell, shaking me head. So you've got to try and look beyond the result of the performance. But it's hard to analyse the performance because it was 70 minutes against 10 men. So it wasn't a usual thing. We can't look at, that's not what it's going to be at Brighton. So it's really hard to try and extrapolate anything. Botman is going to be a big miss for Newcastle. Looks like his ankle injury is going to keep him out. Because really, we haven't got many alternatives. You move Dan Burn across, or you play Lascelles. Target goes into left back. None of it's ideal, really. We're still a little bit weak in that spot.
Will Target go into left back, or will Lewis Hall come in? I'm thinking Lewis Hall.
I thought Lewis Hall was injured.
I'm not sure.
The other option is Livramento could go in and play anywhere
I'd
across
love
there.
to see Lewis Hall play. I think that would be an uptick for me if Lewis Hall plays.
I think he's injured, but I went on the old premierinjuries.com earlier on, and the little tick I had Lewis Hall injured. The other problem I've got here, Baz, is I've got all of the Newcastle games completely the wrong way around. I took Villa and we humped them. I took Newcastle and we got beat. And then I took Newcastle and we got beat. So I'm completely and utterly the opposite end of the spectrum. That was tempting for me to take Brighton because then we'll win. So the key to beating Brighton is sitting them on the break. Newcastle have got players who can do that. Gordon, Almiron, Isak, whether it's Murphy or Barnes. And we've got players who can. I just can't split them. The books can't split them, Baz. They're the same price. I can't split them. We drew down there last year. If no one can split them, I don't know why you wouldn't pick the draw. 11-4 plus 275.
Don't mind that. There's lots to be positive about Brighton. They're the highest scoring team. They've got the highest XG of any team in the league so far. But at the other end, I think there's only Fulham have a worse XG against. Maybe it's Fulham and Luton, possibly. Brighton have given up a lot of big chances. So it's understandable why we're getting such low prices for goals in Brighton games. All 3 games have gone over 3.5 goals, and all 3 of their games have gone both teams to score. And they've had a total of 14 goals in the 3 games so far. Head-to-head record, it's not pretty for Newcastle down at Brighton. No wins in 6 visits, 4 draws and 2 defeats. Only one of them games as well went over 2.5 goals as it happens. But this is a different Newcastle side to any of those previous iterations, but also probably same could be said about Brighton. The further we get away from last weekend, the more relaxed I am about things. Some fans will think this is a poor start of the season for Newcastle, and I think non-Newcastle fans will definitely think that, and it really isn't. We've lost 2 games against 2 of the best sides in the league, and we've lost them by a single goal. City are on 3 points from 3 games. Same 3 fixtures last year. How many points did we get from them, Malcolm? 3 points.
None. 1.
3. We beat Villa at home.
Oh, sorry, I misunderstood the question.
I'm saying if a lot of people are looking at Newcastle thinking they've underperformed and all of this lot.
Yeah.
Newcastle in the same 3 fixtures: City away, Liverpool home, Villa home. At this point in those fixtures, we had 3 points.
Yeah.
We're no worse off.
Yeah, we beat Villa.
So if we can go and beat Brighton this weekend, which I think we can, we're potentially 2 points better off than we were last season from the same 4 fixtures. So it's not all doom and gloom. I'm still positive about Newcastle's chances. We've talked about how some teams are being overhyped on short-term form, some of them with very favourable fixtures so far. And Brighton have had a good run of fixtures to get them where they are and get off to a good start. The opposite would be said of Newcastle. I think people will underestimate Newcastle now because they're sitting there on 3 points. You've got to look at the tricky run of games they've had. I'm still full of confidence, Malcolm. Last year, I looked at our worst spell in the season where it was all doom and gloom. We lost 3 on the bounce. We lost the League Cup final. We lost to Liverpool at home, and we lost to Man City away. Now, we've just lost to Man City away and Liverpool at home. What did we do after that run last year, Malcolm? We went and won 5 in a row. So I'm backing us to bounce back in a similar fashion this time. I'm taking Newcastle as a pick to win. Newcastle beat Brighton at 6-4 plus 150 is the pick for me. I'm taking them on the money line. If anyone isn't as confident as I am about Newcastle, then another one I like is Newcastle to score 2 or more, and that could cash Malcolm's bet as well, a 2-2 or something like that. So Newcastle to score 2 or more is also available 5-6 minus 120. It's another bet I don't mind. But for me, I'm taking Newcastle 6-4 plus 150. I think we'll be playing angry this week, and they'll go out there and they'll bounce right back.
Okay, nice, Baz. An update. I've got some breaking news on Everton, Baz. This just in. They've had a shot on target, Barry.
Oh, wow.
I know Doncaster have had 15 shots. Everton have had 3. but they have got one on target. It's still Doncaster 1, Everton 0. Harrogate Town are losing 8-0 at home to Blackburn as well in the cup. We didn't pick that, Baz. Blackburn -7.5 was the pick.
I've got an update for you. Everton have just scored.
Oh, have they? Fuck yeah, I've talked that one in, haven't I? Yeah, we go. 3 late goals. We're going to catch people. We move across to Sunday, 2 o'clock kickoff. Crystal Palace against Wolves. Palace 9-10 favourites, -111. The draw's 23-10, +230. Wolves are Burton Bertie 100-30 +333. Barry,
have you got a 1-1 of the week, Malcolm?
Yeah,
good. Because I haven't. I was torn. And the reason I ask is because this was one game where
you're not allowed a 1-1 of the week.
Well, I got it right last week, so.
Sorry, what?
I picked the Brentford Palace game last week as the 1-1 of the week.
Did?
We both did. It was a team right.
I did.
Fuck off.
You might have.
Anyone in the chat will tell you we both put that. I put it out before you.
Don't be fucking stupid, Barry.
Anyway,
but it's my thing.
You can have it this week. I haven't got one. Palace, 1 win, 1 draw, 1 loss. All 3 games have went under 2.5. They've had a 1-0 win, a 1-0 loss, and a 1-1 draw, as predicted by both of us here last week. See as in my notes. I'll clip it up, Malcolm, later for you if you want.
I don't. That's not. I don't care about the clip. What I'm saying is, it's my thing. Just leave it. Leave it. Don't look at it. Don't think about it. Don't sketch it.
Wolves winless first 2 games, and then had the perfect tonic last week, didn't they, with a game against Everton, bringing them their first points of the season. Well beaten at home to Brighton. They've then also had a 1-0 win and a 1-0 loss. So 6 games across these 2 sides have delivered 4 1-0 scorelines so far, and 5 times the under 2.5 has hit. 4 of the last 5 head-to-heads have all gone under 2.5. But under 2.5 is a bit short. It's 4-6, -150. So it does look to be a low scoring affair. And I think 1 goal could be enough to win it for either side. And I've just got a slight lean towards Palace here as the home side. Since Hodgson returned to Palace, only Arsenal and Man City have won at Selhurst Park, sorry. And those 2 only won by a single goal. So Palace at home are a tough proposition. They've won the last 2 meetings between these 2 sides that have been played at home. So give me Palace to beat Wolves. 10-11, -110. Palace to beat Wolves for me.
It's a classic mid-table clash, isn't it? Like you say, Palace won 1-0, drew 1-1, lost 1-0. Wolves have done better than we thought. It looks like they're going to lose Matheus Nunes to Manchester City for £48 million or thereabout. They were competitive at home against Arsenal, Palace, although they didn't really look like scoring. They just haven't got a striker. Palace are one of those teams who've just started exactly like we thought. I think Wolves have been all right. And I'm going to take the draw, Baz, which is 23-10. And the score of that draw, Baz, is going to be... 1-1. Don't say it. It's the 1-1 of the week, Barry. Crystal Palace 1, Wolverhampton Wanderers 1. The draw, that's at 6-1. The draw being at 23-10. Now, somewhere along the line this street, there's a couple of thousand people, Baz, are going to listen to this rubbish. And what I would like is, if any of them has an ounce of musical ability, is we want a jingle. I want a 1-1 of the week jingle. So get your keyboard out, get your Bontempi organ, get your guitar out, get your recorder out. Just a 10-second, 20-second. I don't want Bohemian Rhapsody. A 15-second jingle for 1-1 of the week would be absolutely tremendous. Drop us a voice note or something, and we'll jingle up the 1-1 of the week. Okay, 2 games left, and these are absolute belters, these 2, Baz. We probably should have left ourselves longer than 5 minutes to talk about them. 2 o'clock on Sunday is Liverpool against Aston Villa. Liverpool 4-6, -150. The draw is 72 +350, and Villa are Burton Bertie 100-30 +333. Liverpool will be buzzing after last week's smash and grab, but it is hard to analyse. I said the same from Newcastle's point of view. It's hard to analyse that game because they played in 10-men mode. They did it really, really well. What they have got is a whole load of excellent attackers, and they actually looked quite sharp before the game was kind of spoiled by the red card. We then, and that was the difference against Bournemouth as well, really, was just Liverpool's excellent attacking play because they look really dodgy at the back. They look okay in midfield. Szoboszlai looks like a good player. Obviously, McAllister can do his thing. But then, like you say, Endo, Harvey Elliott, whoever else is running around in there, whether it's Gakpo or what have you. Van Dijk being suspended, he nearly made the tip list, actually. Van Dijk being suspended is going to make it really hard for them as well, especially against the Villa team who were rolling. We did see enough of them at Newcastle, although we humped them 5-1. No, they're going to be a good side. Maybe Alex Ferguson was right. It turns out after all that, you might actually know what he's talking about, Baz, rather than everybody else about football who laughed at him. But since then, he scored 4 games, 7-3 at Burnley. Diaby's absolutely flying. There was a few games here where I went against the grain with the over or under. I wanted the bigger price. Not here, Baz. This is instinct is goals, goals, goals. The books like goals, goals, goals. I wish it was a bigger price, but the over 3.5 goals is 11-10 plus 110. This just could be mayhem, like 2-2, 3-2, something like that. So, yeah, that'll be my pick, Baz. Over 3.5, 11-10.
Yeah, I mean, since getting well beat off Newcastle in that opening weekend, Villa have scored 7 in the next 2 games. And they added 5 against Hibs in the European game last week as well, didn't they? 14 total goals in Villa's 3 games so far. And I've wrote down, I can see that continuing as well. I think it'll be goals, goals, goals. Liverpool, as you say, will be without Van Dijk. I don't think it makes a massive difference, to be honest. If it's Gomez, Matip, Konate, Van Dijk. I don't think he's been anywhere near the levels he was a couple of years ago, Van Dijk, anyway. Ever since he got done by Tiny Arms Pickford, I don't think he's been the same levels. I think whatever version of Liverpool defence is selected here, I think this Villa side can cause them problems. In the same way sort of Anthony Gordon did against them earlier on last week. At the same time, we know Liverpool are more than capable of causing their own problems at the other end. It'll be interesting to see if Núñez starts this week. If he's secured a starting berth after his late heroics last week, he'll be a bit disappointed if that doesn't get him a start. I think Liverpool are definitely too short at 4-6. I wouldn't want to take them at that price against a decent Villa side.
Definitely not.
It's another game where I think you can make a case for the underdog here. I think Villa at 130 plus 330 is decent value. So I do like Villa. I like Villa on the money line. I think they're a good price in what I think will be a fairly evenly matched high-scoring game. But I've gone a different way. I've gone for the Villa team total on the goal. So I've got Villa to score 2 or more at a price of 13-8 plus 167. And I've gone that way because Liverpool scoring 2 or 3 themselves here wouldn't surprise me hugely. So rather than taking Villa on the money line, I'll take them on this goals line instead. So the pick for me is Villa to score 2 or more at 13-8, Malcolm, plus 160.
Yeah, I looked at that, Baz. I was looking around all the kind of goals markets. I just can't see why this would go against the grain where a couple of the games, in fact, one that we're coming to where I can see. The final game is another belter. This is the 4:30, 11:30 a.m. Eastern Time kickoff between Arsenal and Manchester United. Arsenal 4-5, minus 120. The draw is 11-4 plus 275. And Manchester United are Burlington Bertie 130 plus 333. Good game, this one. Baz, what are you telling us?
Well, I started my review of Man United last week by saying I couldn't back them anywhere based on what I'd seen so far.
Has he changed it up?
Not seen much against Forest necessarily. That should changed it. I mean, I took Forest last week. I'd done well to oppose Man United. Took them on a handicap, cashed the winner, despite Man United getting the result in the end because Forest plus 1.5 still paid. But this week, I'm tempted with Man United. I'm yet to be convinced by this new version of Arsenal. They're unbeaten, but they've not hit the same levels they were at last season. 1-goal victories against Palace and Forest and a disappointing draw against Fulham doesn't blow you away. And I think Man U will look at this as an opportunity here. I think so far these teams are closer matched than the books have got them. There's no doubt about it. Man U are very fortunate to be sat here on 6 points at this stage. They had to dig deep to turn around that game against Forest. And nobody with eyes thought they deserved anything from the 1-0 win against Wolves. Their away form should be a concern. They're not all of their best form does come at home. But it's purely a value play for me. I think Man United to win here at 10-3, 130 is a really tempting price. But I'm going draw no bet again, Malcolm, only because it's not a big difference. You're getting 100 to 30 for Man United to win, and you're getting 9-4 plus 225 on the draw no bet market. So that's a pick for me. Man United to beat Arsenal on the draw no bet market at 9-4 plus 225.
Rangers are doing a good job in the old Champions League there, Baz, getting beat 5-1, competitive. 7 minutes left, Everton still 1-1, Chelsea hanging on for 2-1, and Burnley have just scored late doors at Nottingham Forest 1-0. That one's in injury time. Arsenal fucked it against Fulham last week, and they'd been pretty functional before that. They're scrappy against Forest, professional win at Palace. Man United, do you know what, Baz? I haven't handicapped it the way you have, but I really like what you've done. What I've got down is they're impossible to trust, but that doesn't mean they're impossible to back. Do you know what I mean? You could back him.
Every team's got a price where they become backable, haven't they?
Yeah.
If the price goes far enough, then you have to go the other way.
I don't trust them to win, but at 100 to 30, you could see why. And these are the kind of games where early in the season they'll turn up and they have done okay. They scored goals against Forest, but that was against 10 men. They were poor at Spurs, but they could have been in front first. Mr. Sitter should have had a penalty, that sort of stuff. And then they were terrible against Wolves, fair enough. In Arsenal, the thing we don't trust with Arsenal is the fact that they've mucked about with their system. We expected them to build. I thought they were good last year. So, like I say, that professional, I've mentioned it more times than enough, but that professional performance at St. James's Park last year was the most impressive, cohesive unit of a thing I'd seen for a long time. And that's what they kind of did at Palace. Went away, kept a clean sheet, got the job done. But they're still arsing around with the team. They've got the right back in the midfield, the inverted fullbacks, all of that malarkey. So I've got two bets here. They're exactly the same price, and I don't know which one to take. Again, I've gone against the instinct of goals, Baz. This is going to be cagey. It's going to be tight. Both teams to score no is 11 to 8 plus 137, and under 2.5 goals is the same price. I think Arsenal are going to win 2-0, Barry. I'm going to take under 2.5 just to give myself a little bit of a safety net. Under 2.5 is 11 to 8 plus 137. What are you smirking at?
I've just put Pat Foster's prediction up underneath you there. He's got both teams to score and over 3.5. He's going the exact opposite way.
And I've got both teams not to score and under 2.5. Come on, Pat.
If we end up with a 2-2 draw, we'll clip that one up and Pat will get all the credit for fading you.
Pat's going to knock up a 12-minute long Meatloaf style 1-1 of the week jingle by all accounts anyway. So there you go. Well, I'm not sure how much help will be to anyone there, Baz, because that was tricky. That was really tricky. And we ended up on the opposite sides of a few things. So 3 weeks in, 3 weeks of profit. Could be scratching around here, Baz, but we've got about a minute left before we get in trouble off Sean and Ryan. So not lock, Doug Total. That's the wrong show as well. Doug, goal scorer, and your acca, Baz.
Yeah, I'll chuck my scorer and underdog out first, then we'll put our accas out last. For the scorer, I'm going for a game that's expected to be full of goals. The player who scored last week, and that's Anthony Gordon, 100 to 30, 10 to 3, plus 330 for an anytime scorer, and 10 to 1 for a first time scorer. So Anthony Gordon to score against Brighton, 10 to 3 anytime, 10 to 1 first scorer. Underdog, I could make a case for loads of these underdogs. Yeah, I might even consider a little dabble on 3 or 4 of them and play the doubles or trebles. I like Bournemouth, Burnley, Forest, Villa, Man United, all as live dogs, I think. I think at least 2 of those will win as underdogs this weekend. It's just finding the right ones. My pick's going to be Man United again. Man United beat Arsenal at 100 to 30 is my underdog of the week. Over to you. Scorer and underdog, Malcolm. Then we'll do a parlays.
Underdog is Burnley. To Tottenham, just not trusting Tottenham. They're going to do this all season long. Might be wrong, but pre-season, Tottenham are wobbly, and I think Burnley will have good days. So 4 games in, I kind of changed that. So a team I think will have good days might beat the team that I think are wobbly. They're 14 to 5 plus 280. Goal scorer, Baz, 9 to 1. Hey, what you telling me about that? 9 to 1. Conor Gallagher going to bend one in from 22 yards out against Nottingham Forest. I think Chelsea can rack up a few against Forest. I think they can get 3 or 4 goals. Gallagher's in there pulling the strings. I looked at Sterling. I looked at Jackson. But I wanted to be out on a limb, Baz. I wanted to hit the 9-1 first and last, 100-30 anytime for Conor Gallagher to take one down on his thigh, paint, brush volley, top corner. And I'll throw out my Yaka. I should throw my Yaka directly into the bin, Barry, because that's what my Yakas are good for. Straight to the bin, Yakas. I haven't won one since 1989. However, it's the under 2.5 treble. On all the yeah.
We're going to be on the opposite sides of something, yeah.
Luton West Ham is definitely finishing under 2.5. Brentford Bournemouth is definitely finishing under 2.5. And I'll tell you how good this actor is, but I've only written 2 down, but I've got a price of 11-2 for the 3, and I don't know what my third one is.
What an absolute shambles!
Oh, Palace Wolves is the answer. It's one of the week, so. Have they, bastards? So they're going to win, which isn't funny, and they're going to cost us our bet, which is also not funny. I couldn't have gone any worse.
Give us your treble again there, because you made a right mess of
that. Under 2.5, Luton West Ham, Brentford Bournemouth, Palace Wolves, Bosh.
Price of?
Plus 568, 11-2.
Okay, mine is an over 2.5 accumulator, and I've gone for 4 games here. And I've went for all of the 3 o'clock kickoffs on Saturday. Everton aren't involved, Wolves aren't involved, and Palace aren't involved. And they're the teams who always go under. We've had 10 games go under 2.5 this season, and 6 of them have involved at least one of those 3 teams. So I'm going for Man City Fulham, Chelsea Forest, Burnley Spurs, Brentford Bournemouth, all to be over 2.5 goals. That's at price of 11-2 plus 550. Doesn't help you, Malcolm, does it?
Not really, but like I say, mine.
There are people celebrating Everton's goals. I think a lot of people have took Everton on the money line in my
because you put it out wrong.
Because that's what I said at the end of the show. Yeah, I will officially lose, but yeah, some people make.
We're not here for you. We're here for the people.
Hopefully, I might.
Nick's taking an hour and 11 minutes to cheer him up tonight with a get in. So that'll do for us, Nick. Nice that you were lurking around anyway. Slick Rick's right. Everton winning is bad. Anyway, we have got no more time for small talk because we are absolutely 3 minutes over schedule, and that's the sort of shit that gets
everyone has got time to thumbs up, Malcolm.
Yeah, they have.
And subscribe.
Right. Thank you very much, Barry. There's more people in the chat at the end than I think we've had for a long time. So yeah, go into all the things Baz says. Tricky week this, Baz. If we can survive with 1 unit of profit, I'll be absolutely delighted. Thank you for your endeavours. Thanks everyone who joined us in the chat and watched and listened and all that sort of stuff. We'll be back probably on Monday evening, maybe Sunday. We'll have to see how sober everybody is. But until then, we'll see you down the road. Cheers.